All right, this is 7-6 part 4. We're talking about graphing exponential functions in this video. So first I want to talk about sort of the shape of an exponential graph. So when you have the variable in the exponent, obviously the only thing that's changing is the exponent. So if you think about it, as x gets really, really big, like say x is 100, right? You're going to have a really, really, really big numbers, because in this case, that would be 3 to the 100. I don't even know how big that is, but it's huge. So as x gets bigger and bigger and bigger, the y is also going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. So you can see that as x gets bigger, this quickly goes up and starts going off to infinity. That's going to go up really fast. In the negative direction, however, if x is negative, say x is -1 in this case. So if I have 3 to the -1, we're just going to kind of ignore the 0.5 for now. I just want to talk about what the exponential part is doing. If I have 3 to the -1, we learned earlier in the unit that that's the same as 1/3, right? So this is actually getting smaller. 1/3 is clearly smaller than 3, right? If I have 3 to the -2, that's 1/3 squared, which is 1/9. So that's even smaller, right? That's even smaller. And then so 3 to the -3 is going to be the same thing as 1/3 to the third. 3 to the third is 27. So that would be 1/27. So it's just going to get smaller and smaller and smaller. So you can see that this graph is getting closer and closer and closer to 0. The thing is, it never actually touches 0, because if I have something like, say, 3 to the -100, right? We talked about how 3 to the 100 is going to be a really, really big number. 3 to the -100 is going to be 1 over a really, really, really big number. You can try putting 1 over a really, really, really big number in your calculator, and you'll see that it's going to just give you a really, really small decimal, like maybe 0.0000000001, right? It's going to be really, really small, but it's never actually going to get to 0. So here at 0, we have something that's called an asymptote, which is a line that the graph gets close to but never touches. So these graphs are never going to touch 0. They're going to get close to 0, but they're never actually going to touch it. So now that we've got that straightened out, let's talk about these 4 different directions that the graph can go. So this is your basic exponential function graph. When x is negative, it's getting closer to 0. When x is positive, it's going off to infinity. That's going to be something like y equals 2 to the x. If I have something like this, actually I want to do this one first. Sorry, I'm going out of order, but I want to do this one first. If I have something like this, you can see that this, if I flip this over the x-axis, it looks like this. So instead of going up to infinity, it's going down to -infinity. It's going down really fast as x gets really big. It's going down really fast. And as x is negative, it's still getting closer and closer and closer to 0. So this is going to happen when I have a negative in front. When I have a negative in front, everything that we just talked about for the positive version just becomes negative. So all of these points are going to be the same except negative. So it's going to come down here, and all of our y's are going to be negative. So that is going to be y equals -2 to the x, sorry. Yeah. So this one is y equals -2 to the x. This one is a lot like this one, except for it's been flipped over the y-axis. So instead of going off to infinity when when x is positive, it goes off to infinity when x is negative. And that happens when we have something less than 1 as our base, because when I put a negative exponent in here, I have 1/2, say I have 1/2 to the -1, right? I have to flip this base. I have to flip the base, remember, to make the exponent positive. So that's going to be 2 over 1 to the first power, which is just 2. So when x is negative, I'm going to get what I would have gotten when x was positive when I had this equation. So it flips it. It flips this part so that it's over here. So this is what it looks like when I have something that's between 0 and 1 as my base. So this is y equals 1/2 to the x. Okay, y equals 1/2 to the x. Now this one is a lot like this one, but it's been flipped over the x-axis. So just like when we were looking at this one, it was like this one, but flipped over the x-axis, and it was because we put a negative in front of it. This one turns into this one when we put a negative in front of it. So this one's going to be y equals -1/2 to the x. So it's the same as y equals 1/2 to the x, except for we put a negative in front. So it gets flipped to the bottom half, to the -1/2 of the graph, like that. So these are the basic shapes that we get with exponential functions. In the next video, I'm going to do an actual example of graphing and plotting points. And I will see you guys in the next video.